Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Room of Requirement. My name is Megan, and I have over 25 years of occult and esoteric research, study, and practice. And today I'm going to be talking about Gnosticism, understanding the esoteric origins and beliefs. So I'm going to take quite a bit of a deep dive into it and touch on the really high points so that you can understand Gnosticism fully. So this is one of the things that I studied over the years. I know this can be a kind of a controversial subject because back in the early days when it was formed, it was seen as heretical and blasphemous. And the reason why is because at the time that Christianity was being formed, you had a bunch of different groups of people who were Christians at the time, and they were all trying to compete with each other and decide what was the correct form back then, because everyone had difference of opinions on how things should be written and what should be written and all of these things. And so you had some infighting with different groups around that area at the time. And so when somebody came out with this version of the Gnostic version, it was called heretical and false, and it was pretty much dragged through the mud, and they were saying all kinds of horrible things, about the religion to really get everyone socially to kind of turn against it. And so this has happened periodically through the ages, with different types of religions, when somebody will all of a sudden come out with some radical claim, oh, that look what they're doing, you shouldn't believe this because A, B, C, right? So that's basically what happened. And there's a lot of concepts in Gnosticism that kind of go pretty far out from Orthodox Christianity. And so it was, really hard for people to wrap their minds around all of these different types of opinions and settle on something. And so you got to think of the really turbulent times. We're talking about the first, second, and third centuries, CE, when all this was birthing itself and trying to find its foothold and foundation. So you had just, a bunch of different opinions. And so people were fighting. There are a lot of things about Gnosticism that I that I identify with, and there are some things that I don't. So this isn't a video that's for it or against it. I'm just presenting the information to you, and then you can take it, however you want to. But basically, I'm just the teacher. I'm just the messenger. I'm just giving you the information so that you can understand all of these different things that come up that you learn about on your spiritual path, like I did. So basically, in all these videos that I'm doing, I am just transmitting all the knowledge that I've learned over the years so that if you're at that point and you want to learn, that you'll have something to go by. When I was learning all of this stuff about all the different religions and practices and spiritual paths and beliefs and all of this stuff, I didn't have YouTube. I had libraries and books, and back in my day in the 90s, I was getting on computers back when they first came out. So I know they came out earlier than that, but they got really popular and blew up like in the 90s. And so back then we didn't have like Google like we do now. So I basically learned everything from reading and reading some more and reading some more. And then eventually, as technology got better, I was able to validate all that stuff that I read and learn different opinions and learn different perspectives and all of this. And so I really value all of that and being able to see things from different perspectives. And you hear a lot on your spiritual path. Well, and I've heard a couple people, say stuff like, well, you go too far off, and you have too many beliefs, and you believe in this and you believe in that. Yeah, I do. I believe in a lot of different things. But what it all boils down to is all of this has led me to the ultimate, which is communion with the divine. And so that is a single pointed focused path to the divine, and that is the ultimate goal, is to learn about yourself through communion with the divine. And so through over the years, that's what I have come to find. But anyway, sorry about all the rambling. So I just kind of wanted to explain that, and this stuff is seen as Gnosticism is really controversial, and then you can even go even further with it and talk about the matrix and reality is an illusion and all of these things. And I see where all of those points come from and why this is seen as so controversial. But anyway, let's just dive right in. Okay. So, exploration of Gnosticism. Gnosticism is a complex and intriguing religious and philosophical movement that emerged in the early centuries of the Common Era. It offers a unique perspective on spirituality, knowledge, and the nature of the divine. Gnosticism embraces numerous general attitudes towards life. It encourages non-attachment and non-conformity to the world, a being in the world but not of the world, a lack of egotism, and a respect for the freedom and dignity of others. Nonetheless, it appertains to the intuition and wisdom of every individual Gnostic to distill from these principal individual guidelines for the personal application. Origins and historical context. Gnosticism is not a single unified religion, but rather a diverse collection of ideas and sects that flourished in the Mediterranean world during the first few centuries CE. It is believed to have roots in Hellenistic Judaism, early Christianity, and Platonic philosophy. The term Gnosticism comes from the Greek word gnosis, meaning knowledge, which is central to its teachings. Key historical influences. Hellenistic Judaism. Gnostic thought was influenced by Jewish mystical traditions and the Jewish diaspora's interactions with Greek culture. Early Christianity. Many Gnostic sects identify as Christian, though they often hold beliefs considered heretical by Orthodox Christians. Platonic philosophy. Gnosticism shares philosophical elements with Neoplatonism, particularly the emphasis on the transcendent, ineffable God. They even are correlated with Hermeticism as well, because it was really prevalent in the Platonic period too. So you could even say that a lot of Hermeticists adopted some Gnostic beliefs as well. Okay, so Gnosticism encompasses a wide range of beliefs, but several core concepts are commonly found across Gnostic sects. The divine and cosmology, the pleroma. So I'm going to go into a little bit of depth of what these things are. So just bear with me here. The spiritual realm of fullness and perfection, often inhabited by divine beings called eons. The demiurge, a lesser god or creator deity responsible for the material world, often depicted as ignorant or malevolent. Dualism, a sharp distinction between the material and spiritual worlds, with the former seen as flawed or evil. Gnostic texts. Gnostic beliefs are primarily known through ancient texts, many of which were discovered in the 20th century. These texts provide valuable insights into Gnostic thought and practice. Notable Gnostic scriptures: the Nag Hammadi Library, a collection of 13 codices discovered in Egypt in 1945 containing many important Gnostic texts. The Gospel of Thomas, a collection of sayings attributed to Jesus, emphasizing direct knowledge of the divine. The Apocryphon of John, a text detailing a complex cosmology and the role of the demiurge. Knowledge and salvation, Gnosis. It is a secret esoteric knowledge required for salvation, often involving insight into the divine realm as one's true nature. The divine spark, the belief that within each person resides a fragment of the divine trapped in the material world and needing liberation. Salvation through knowledge. Liberation is achieved through acquiring gnosis, often facilitated by a spiritual guide or revealer. Modern resonance, contemporary spirituality. Gnostic ideas have resurfaced in modern spiritual movements, emphasizing personal experience and inner knowledge. Cultural references. Gnostic themes are frequently explored in literature, film, and art, often addressing questions of reality and perception. Influence and legacy. Gnosticism's influence has been far-reaching, impacting various religious and philosophical traditions throughout history. In early Christianity, Gnosticism was a significant rival to early Orthodox Christianity, leading to numerous theological debates. Manichaeism, a major world religion that incorporated Gnostic elements and spread across the Roman era and beyond. Roman Empire and beyond. Deity. The Gnostic God concept is more subtle than that of most religions. In its way, it unites and reconciles the recognitions of monotheism and polytheism, as well as of theism, deism, and pantheism. In the Gnostic view, there is a true ultimate and transcendent God who is beyond all created universes and who never created anything in the sense in which the word, create is ordinarily understood. While this true God did not fashion or create anything, he or it emanated or brought forth from within himself the substance of all there is in all the worlds, visible and invisible. Emanations. In a certain sense, it may therefore be true to say that all is God, for all consists of the substance of God. By the same token, it must also be recognized that many portions of the original divine essence have been projected so far from their source that they underwent unwholesome changes in the process. To worship the cosmos or nature or embodied creatures is thus tantamount to worshiping alienated and corrupt portions of the emanated divine essence. Gnostic myths. The basic Gnostic myth has many variations, but all of these refer to the eons, intermediate deific beings who exist between the ultimate true God and ourselves. They, together with the true God, comprise the realm of fullness or pleroma, wherein the potency of divinity operates fully. The fullness stands in contrast to our existential state, which is in comparison may be called emptiness. The myth of Sophia. One of the aeonal beings who bears the name Sophia, meaning wisdom, is of great importance to the Gnostic worldview. In the course of her journey, Sophia came to emanate from her own being a flawed consciousness, a being who became the creator of the material and psychic cosmos, all of which he created in the image of his own flaw. This being, unaware of his origins, imagined himself to be the ultimate and absolute God. Since he took the already existing divine essence and fashioned it into various forms, he also called the demiurges or half-maker. There is an authentic half, a true deific component within creation, but it is not recognized by the half-maker and by his cosmic minions, the archons or rulers. The human being. Human nature mirrors the duality found in the world. In part, it was made by the false creator God, and in part, it consists of the light of the true God. Humankind contains a perishable, physical, and psychic component, as well as a spiritual component, which is a fragment of the divine essence. This latter part is often symbolically referred to as the divine spark. The recognition of this dual nature of the world and of the human being has earned the Gnostic tradition term of dualist. Divine spark. Humans are generally ignorant of the divine spark resident within them. This ignorance is fostered in human nature by the influence of the false creator and his archons, who together are intent upon keeping men and women ignorant of their true nature and destiny. Anything that causes us to remain attached to the earthly things serves to keep us in enslavement to those lower cosmic rulers. Death releases the divine spark from its lowly prison, but if there has not been a substantial work of gnosis undertaken by the soul prior to death, it becomes likely that the divine spark will be hurled back into and then re-embodied within the pangs and slavery of the physical world. So this is the same cycle of reincarnation over and over and over and over again. Pneumatics and hyletics. Not all humans are spiritual pneumatics and thus ready for gnosis and liberation. Some are earthbound and materialistic beings, which are hyletics, who recognize only the physical reality. Others live largely in their psyche or psychics. Such people usually mistake the demiurge for their true God and have little or no awareness of the spiritual world beyond matter and mind. In the course of history, humans progress from materialistic sensate slavery by way of ethical religiosity to spiritual freedom and liberating gnosis. As the scholar G. Quispel wrote, quote, "The world, spirit in exile, must go through the inferno of matter and the purgatory of morals to arrive at the spiritual paradise," end quote. This kind of evolution of consciousness was envisioned by the Gnostics long before the concept of evolution was known. Salvation. Evolutionary forces alone are insufficient, however, to bring about spiritual freedom. Humans are caught in a predicament consisting of physical existence combined with ignorance of their true origins, their essential nature, and their ultimate destiny. To be liberated from the predicament, human beings require help, although they must also contribute to their own efforts. From earliest times, messengers of the light have come forth from the true God in order to assist humans in their quest for gnosis. Only a few of these salvific figures are mentioned in the Gnostic scripture. Some of the most important are Seth, the third son of Adam, Jesus, and the prophet Mani. The majority of Gnostics always look to Jesus as the principal savior figure. Salvation to the Gnostics. Gnostics do not look to salvation from sin, original or other, but rather from the ignorance of which sin is a consequence. Ignorance, whereby is meant ignorance of spiritual realities, is dispelled only by gnosis, and the decisive revelation of gnosis is brought by the messengers of light, especially by Christ, the Logos of the true God. It is not by his suffering and death, but his life of teaching and his establishing of the mysteries that Christ has performed his work of salvation. Gnostic concept of salvation. The Gnostic concept of salvation, like other Gnostic concepts, is a subtle one. On the one hand, Gnostic salvation may easily be mistaken for an unmedicated individual experience, unmediated individual experience, a sort of spiritual do-it-yourself project. Gnostics hold that the potential for gnosis and thus of salvation is present in every man and woman, and that salvation is not vicarious but individual. But at the same time, they also acknowledge the gnosis and salvation can be, indeed must be, stimulated and facilitated in order to effectively arise within consciousness. Conduct. If the word ethics or morality are taken to mean a system of rules, then Gnosticism is opposed to them both. Such systems usually originate with the demiurge and are covertly designed to serve his purposes. If, on the other hand, morality is said to consist of an inner integrity arising from the illumination of the indwelling spark, then the Gnostic will embrace the spirituality-informed existential ethic as ideal. To the Gnostic, commandments and rules are not salvific. They are not substantially conducive to salvation. Rules of conduct may serve numerous ends, including the structuring of an ordered and peaceful society and the maintenance of harmonious relations within social groups. Rules, however, are not relevant to salvation. That is brought about by gnosis, or only by gnosis. Morality, therefore, needs to be viewed primarily in temporal and secular terms. It is ever subject to changes and modifications in accordance with the spiritual development of the individual. Manichaean and Cathar movements. The Hylitic materialists usually have little interest in morality, while psychic disciplinarians often grant to it a great importance. In contrast, pneumatic spiritual persons are generally more concerned with other higher matters. Different historical periods also require variant attitudes regarding human conduct. Thus, both the Manichaean and the Cathar Gnostic movements, which functioned in times where purity of conduct was regarded as an issue of high import, responded in kind. The present period of Western culture perhaps resembles in more ways that of the 2nd and 3rd century Alexandria. It seems, therefore, appropriate that Gnostics in our age adopt the attitudes of classical Alexandrian Gnosticism, wherein matters of conduct were largely left to the insight of the individual. Gnosis and the psyche, the depth of psychological connection. Throughout the 20th century, the new scientific discipline, depth psychology, has gained much prominence. Among the depth psychologists who have shown a pronounced and informed interest in Gnosticism, a place of signal distinction between Carl Jung. So Carl Jung was instrumental in calling attention to the Nag Hammadi library of Gnostic writings in the 1950s because he perceived the outstanding psychological relevance of Gnostic insights. A noted scholar of Gnosticism, Filoramo, wrote, quote, Jung's reflections had long been immersed in the thought of the ancient Gnostics to such an extent that he considered them the virtual discoveries of depth psychology, ancient gnosis, albeit in its form of universal religion, in a certain sense prefigured and at the same time helped to clarify the nature of Jungian spiritual therapy, end quote. In the light of such recognitions, one may ask, is Gnosticism a religion or a psychology? The answer is that it may very well be both. Most mythologians found in Gnostic scriptures possess psychological relevance and applicability. Esoteric teachings. Many esoteric teachings have proclaimed, as it is above, so it is below. Our psychological nature, the microcosm, mirrors metaphysical nature, the macrocosm. Thus, Gnosticism may possess both a psychological and a religious authenticity. Gnostic psychology and Gnostic religion need not be exclusive of one another, but may complement each other within an implicit order of wholeness. Gnostics have always held that divinity is immanent within the human spirit, although it is not limited to it. The convergence of Gnostic religious teachings and psychological insight is thus quite understandable in terms of time-honored Gnostic principles. There is no gnosis without Gnosticism. In a sense, there is no gnosis without Gnosticism, for the experience of gnosis inevitably calls forth a worldview wherein it finds its place. The Gnostic worldview is experiential. It is based on a certain kind of spiritual experience of gnosis. Therefore, it will not do to omit or to dilute various parts of the Gnostic worldview, for were one to do this, the worldview would no longer conform to experience. Theology has been called an intellectual wrapping around the spiritual kernel of a religion. If this is true, then it is also true that most religions are being strangled and stifled by their wrappings. Gnosticism does not run this danger because this worldview is stated in myth rather than in theology. Myths, including the Gnostic myths, may be interpreted in diverse ways. Transcendence, numinosity, as well as psychological archetypes, along with other elements, play a role in such interpretation. Still, much mythic statements tell of profound truths that will not be denied. Spirit. Gnosticism can bring us such truths with a high authority, for it speaks with the voice of the highest part of the human, the spirit. Of the spirit it has been said, it bloweth where it listeth. This then is the reason why the Gnostic worldview could not be extirpated, sorry if I'm messing that up, in spite of many centuries of persecution. Gnostic worldview. The Gnostic worldview has always been timely, for it has always responded best to the knowledge of the heart. That is true gnosis. Yet today it's timeless in increasing, for the end of the second millennium has seen the radical deterioration of many ideologies which evaded the great question and answers addressed by Gnosticism. The clarity, frankness, and authenticity of the Gnostic answer to the questions of the human predicament cannot fail to impress and, in time, to convince. If your reactions to the summary have been of a similarly positive order, then perhaps you are a Gnostic yourself. In conclusion, Gnosticism remains a fascinating and enigmatic aspect of religious history. Offering unique perspectives on the divine, the nature of reality, and the pursuit of knowledge, its legacy continues to inspire and challenge seekers of truth and understanding in the modern world. Okay, you guys, so I hope you really enjoyed that one. If you guys have any questions, comments, put them down in the video below. I've got a few more things coming down the pipeline: energy manipulation, angels, and guides. I'm going to be talking in depth about that. So I'm excited to bring all that to you. I will see you guys next time.